I was 34 years old when I decided to give God an ultimatum. Sitting in my apartment on New Year's Eve, surrounded by the glow of fairy lights and the silence of another year ending alone, I opened my journal and wrote, "Lord, I've been faithful, I've been patient, I've done everything right. This year, I need you to send my husband, not next year, not in your timing. This year, I can't wait anymore." I signed it like a contract, dated it, closed my eyes, and declared it into the atmosphere like I'd been taught in all the faith conferences. What I didn't know was that God was about to answer my prayer, just not the way I expected. He wasn't going to send me a husband, he was going to send me a mirror. My name is Camille, I'm an accountant at a mid-sized firm, a worship leader at my church, and according to my mother, running out of time. That last part she mentioned at every family gathering, every phone call, every text message that started with, "I was just thinking about you." "Camille, you're not getting any younger. Your cousin Kiana is pregnant with her third. When are you going to give me some grandbabies?" I loved my mother. I really did. But her words had become a constant drumbeat of inadequacy, a reminder that no matter what I accomplished, the promotions, the ministry, the mortgage I paid on my own, I was still failing at the one thing that mattered most, being chosen. My church didn't help. Every sermon seemed to circle back to marriage. "Wives, submit to your husbands. Husbands, love your wives." The singles ministry was basically a holy waiting room, a holding pen until real life could begin. I watched my friends pair off one by one, engagement photos on Instagram, wedding invitations in my mailbox, baby showers. I smiled through with an aching heart. I did everything the books told me to, dressed modestly but attractively, positioned myself in the right places, prayed warfare prayers against the spirit of singleness like it was a demon to be cast out. Nothing worked. So that New Year's Eve, I decided to take matters into my own hands. If God needed me to be more proactive, fine, I would be. My plan was simple: maximize my exposure. I joined Christian Mingle, downloaded 3 other dating apps, and started saying yes to every social event at church. Bible studies, volunteer days, even the men's ministry pancake breakfast, where I accidentally needed directions to the restroom 3 times. By February, I had been on 6 first dates. None of them went anywhere. There was Marcus, who talked about his ex-wife for 2 hours straight. David, who asked me to split the bill and then criticized my choice of dessert. Jerome, who seemed perfect until he mentioned he was technically still married but separated in his heart. And Christopher, who spent the entire dinner looking at every woman in the restaurant except me. I was exhausted, discouraged, starting to wonder if something was fundamentally wrong with me. Then I met Elijah. He walked into the singles mixer at church like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Tall, well-dressed, with a confidence that filled the room. He was new to the city, a software engineer who just transferred for work. When he approached me, my heart actually skipped. "I'm Elijah," he said, extending his hand. "And you are the most beautiful woman in this room." I should have recognized that line for what it was, but I was so hungry to be seen, to be chosen, that I devoured it like bread after a fast. We exchanged numbers. He called the next day. By the weekend, we were having coffee, and I was already imagining our wedding colors. Elijah was charming, attentive. He quoted scripture in conversation and talked about wanting a wife who loved God more than she loved him. "That's exactly what I've been praying for," I said, meaning it with everything in me. What I didn't see, what I refused to see, was that Elijah wasn't looking for a partner. He was looking for an audience. The first sign came 3 weeks in. We were at dinner when a woman approached our table. She looked at me, then at Elijah, then back at me. "So you're the new one," she said, her voice dripping with something between pity and contempt. "Good luck with that." She walked away before I could respond. Elijah laughed it off. "Ex-girlfriend," he explained. She's still bitter. You know how some women can't let go. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. The second sign came a month later. I noticed he never introduced me to his friends. When I asked about meeting his family, he changed the subject. When I suggested coming to his church, he said he preferred to keep our spiritual lives separate for now. I just want to focus on us, he said, without outside interference. It sounded romantic, protective even. I told myself he was being intentional. The third sign was the biggest, and I almost missed it entirely. We were at his apartment. I'd finally been invited after 2 months when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something shifted in his face. A micro expression, gone in a second. Who was that? I asked, trying to sound casual. Nobody. Work stuff. But I saw the name on the screen before he flipped it over. A woman's name, a heart emoji next to it. My stomach dropped, but I said nothing. Because saying something would mean acknowledging that this dream, this answer to my prayers, might be a nightmare in disguise. 2 weeks later, I couldn't take it anymore. I'd been obsessing over that text, checking his social media, analyzing every word he said for hidden meanings. I was becoming someone I didn't recognize. Paranoid, clingy, desperate. So I asked, Elijah, I need to know, is there someone else? He looked at me with those beautiful brown eyes, and for a moment, I saw something flicker behind them. Annoyance? Calculation? Camille, he said, taking my hands, you're overthinking this. I'm with you, aren't I? I wouldn't waste my time if I wasn't serious. But the text, the woman with the heart emoji, my sister, he said smoothly. We're close. Is that a crime? I wanted to believe him. Every fiber of my being wanted to accept that explanation and move forward. But something in my spirit wouldn't settle. That night, I prayed differently than I had before. Not, God, please make this work, but God, please show me the truth, even if I don't want to see it. The truth came 3 days later, in the form of a Facebook message from a woman named Destiny. Hi, Camille. You don't know me, but I know Elijah. We've been together for 2 years. I saw your photo on his phone and did some digging. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but he's been playing both of us. I thought you deserved to know. She attached screenshots, text messages, photos. 2 years of a relationship I knew nothing about. I stared at my phone, trembling. Then I scrolled through the evidence, my heart shattering with every image. Elijah and Destiny at a wedding, at the beach, at church, a different church than the one he told me he attended. He'd been living a double life, and I'd been so desperate to be chosen that I'd walked right into the trap. I called in sick to work and spent 2 days in bed, not just because of Elijah. He was a symptom, not the disease. I was mourning something deeper, the realization that I'd been chasing a fantasy so hard that I lost myself in the pursuit, that I'd ignored my own instincts, dismissed the warnings of the spirit, silenced every alarm because I was terrified of being alone. My friend Nina came over on day 3. She didn't bring platitudes. She brought Chinese food and hard truth. Camille, I love you, but you've been making finding a husband your entire identity, and it's killing you. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but I couldn't, because she was right. I just want what everyone else has, I whispered. I just want to be loved. Girl, you are loved. By God, by your family, by your friends. But you've been so focused on romantic love that you've missed all the other love surrounding you. She sat beside me on the bed and took my hand. And here's the harder truth. You've been so desperate to be chosen by a man that you've been willing to accept anyone who picked you, regardless of whether they were actually good for you. The words hit like a punch to the gut, because they were true. I hadn't been praying for the right husband. I'd been praying for any husband, And the difference between those two prayers was everything. Over the next few months, I did something I'd never done before. I stopped looking for a husband and started looking at myself. I went to counseling, started unpacking why I tied my worth so completely to romantic partnership, why being single felt like failure, why I was so afraid of being alone. The answers were painful. Childhood wounds I never addressed, messages from church and culture that had seeped into my bones, a belief deep down that I wasn't enough on my own. God wasn't sending me a husband because I wasn't ready for one. I would have dragged all my brokenness into a marriage and wondered why it wasn't working. He sent me Elijah not as a blessing, but as a mirror, to show me what I was willing to accept when I was operating from desperation instead of wholeness. And it was ugly, but it was also the beginning of freedom. I started doing things I'd put on hold until I got married. Traveled to Portugal by myself, took a pottery class, started writing again, something I'd abandoned years ago because it didn't seem practical. I stopped going to the singles ministry, not because there was anything wrong with it, but because I needed to stop defining myself by my relationship status. I started therapy and discovered that I actually liked spending time alone, that I could go to restaurants by myself and enjoy the meal, that I could fill my own life with meaning without a partner. I wasn't bitter toward marriage. I still believed it could be beautiful, but I no longer believed it was the key to my happiness. Happiness, I learned, was an inside job. 1 year later, I was 35 when I stopped praying for a husband. Not because I gave up on love, but because I finally understood that I couldn't receive what I wasn't ready to steward. I started praying differently. God, make me whole, make me healthy, make me the kind of woman who doesn't need a man to complete her, so that if you do send one, I can love him from overflow, not from emptiness. It was the scariest prayer I'd ever prayed because it meant surrendering the timeline, accepting that single forever might be God's plan, and learning to be okay with that. But in that surrender, something unexpected happened. I found peace. Not the anxious waiting I'd called peace before, real peace. The kind that doesn't depend on circumstances. The kind that says, whether I marry or not, I am loved, I am complete, I am enough. I wish I could tell you I met my husband the moment I stopped looking. That would make a better story. But the truth is messier. The truth is that I don't know how my story ends yet. I'm still single as I share this, still learning, still growing. But I'm no longer desperate, no longer defining my worth by whether a man has chosen me, because I've finally understood that God already chose me before any man ever could. And his choosing is enough. If a husband comes, and I do believe he might, he'll be meeting a whole woman, a healed woman, a woman who knows who she is with or without a ring. And if he doesn't come, if this is my story, single, content, complete, then that's enough too, because I am not waiting for my life to begin. I'm living it right now, fully, freely. And that, my sisters, is the real answer to the prayer I prayed that New Year's Eve. I asked for a husband. God sent me something better. He sent me back to myself.